There's a little bit of momentum behind it. And then he will call up one of the mentors and ask them if they'll work with him on this. And usually the course is that the mentor will sit down with the scout and the parents and just discuss the process in going forward to bringing the proposed idea to the presentation to the parent committee. That's writing up the proposal and presenting it to the parent committee. In that interaction, it's usually like a 1 hour around the dining room table interaction, the scope of the job becomes fairly well exposed, and so the mentors can give some guidance as to whether we feel that they're buying into something that's just too big or something which is not quite worthy of being a Eagle Leadership project. And so we can help tailor the project, suggesting ways that it can be limited or expanded as needed. And so by the time the scout has aired his idea and moves them along into a proposal later, it's usually within pretty much the bounds that are expected by ideas.
Right. And in fact, if I could just add to that, one moment, is so obviously the thing that's unknown is how many workers show up on particular work days. So if you were to think about the hours are determined by eight primary variables. Variable 1, number of work days. Variable 2, number of workers. So from a planning perspective, what the scout should do is think about in the process, how many work days do I think I'm going to have? If the work plan says I'm going to have 2 work days, 3 work days, that's going to be very light. If the scoping is saying I'm going to have 15, 20 work days, that's probably too big. So think about somewhere between 7 to 12 work days. And as you start thinking about that, you'll realize, if you have 5 workers show up for 4 hours, that's 20 hours right there for each work day. You have 5 work days, that's 100 hours. So those are some principles that the scout and the parents may want to think about in terms of how to scope the project. Does that answer the question?
In this document you handed out about Eagle Court of Honor here, Brian Waltz's project is listed as having taken over 520 hours.
That's right.
And I'm wondering, was that because it wasn't properly scoped? Was it project creep? Was it that he chose an ambitious project? And I mean, what happened there?
All of the above.
Union workers.
A lot of girls came to plant. Yeah, a lot of people one day,
All of the, and the scope was very big. The scope was huge. And that was also part of the transition that we were going through. So the new mentors were just coming on, the project was already happening.
I see.
And so the last few years, we've gathered a little bit more information in terms of the variety of project and the scope and the hours. And so that's one of the principles we're trying to encourage in the troop, is in terms of complexity and scope and the hours. I think that's an important criteria. Thank you for raising that. Other questions? Okay, so I'm on page 3 now, Eagle Projects C, stages during the project. Let me just rattle off some of these things. So here are the stages. If you want to think about, and again, this is, let me remind people that what we talked about way back today was there's the Eagle Project, there's merit badges, there's leadership, there's Scout Spirit, there's all those things which you still have to do, and what we are focusing on is just the Eagle Project. Okay, so with that focus. So the first stage that you, the Scout, and the parents are probably going to go through is the Scout is saying, I think I'm ready to look for a project. That's probably step 1. That's the, you're not raising your hand like this. You're say, I think I want to do something. That's probably step one. Okay? Stage 2 is scoping the project. And that's what we were just talking about, is how do you scope it, how do you figure out how many work days, how big, how would you do it, your project plan, getting ideas. And that's where you want to make sure that you're working with an adult Eagle mentor from Troop 30. Stage 3 is your presentation to the troop. Parents here saying, yep, seems right. So you'll get an acceptance, and those meetings are, as you know, the parents have a meeting once a month. So it's at the beginning of that meeting when the scout comes and presents. Again, yay, nay, or suggestions on how to improve it. Once you have the parents' approval, then still in the proposal approval phase, you go to council, get your signatures. Once you have that, you move on to the next stage of saying, ready to execute. Okay? An important suggestion, which we had also mentioned at the last time when we were doing the writing, the binder discussion, as the scouts are doing the project, in your project execution phase, it's going to be very, very helpful to do a daily journal of your work days. Really important. Here's what happens if you don't do it. If you don't do it, when it comes to writing the binder, there is this huge section that you have to write on your daily journal. A, you want to remember what you did, because you typically will write the project 6-9 months after you've done the project. B, the binder is such a major production. If you can do half of that work while you're doing the project, it's going to make it so much easier for you to finish the binder. All that you need to do when you're doing your daily work days is you need to understand what is the format for writing your daily journal. And that's a very simple format, very standard. It's in the other document. If you have any questions, reach out to your Adult Eagle mentors. We'll tell you. Here are the 8 sections you need to have for every workday. Finish your workday, go home, sit down with the parents, have dinner. After dinner, say, you know what, I'm just going to spend 15 minutes writing what I did. And you'll be way, way ahead in terms of your end result of producing a binder. Okay. Next stage is project execution completed. And what does that mean? What that means is the sponsor is satisfied. There's a place the sponsor needs to sign off, saying, yep, here's my signature, project's done to my satisfaction, you're good to go. So that's the project execution completed. And you need that signature for your binder write-up. You then move to the project write-up phase. Once your write-up is done, do your Eagle application. And when you're doing an Eagle application, you've got to make sure your merit badges are done. So it's all kind of ties in together. You have your Eagle application done. You get the initial from one of the Adult Eagle mentors on the binder, because that's our little secret handshake with our Scoutmaster. They say, yep, this is good quality and it's ready for his approval. If you don't have that magic handshake signal on the binder, the Scoutmaster will not talk to you. Right?
Right.
Right. Okay. All right. So then you go have your Scoutmaster conference. He's very impressed with everything that you've done. You've lived the Scout spirit. You've been active in the troop. You've done your merit badges. Your binder is phenomenal. And he says, go forth. Go to the Board of Review. And so what you then do is, once you have Scoutmaster's signature on your application, you make a copy of the binder. Because the thing you don't want to do is in the 0.0001% chance that somehow the binder disappears.